Before we go, I know that what the argument is going to be now, the left is already making it, is that left-wing violence is rare. And really, most political violence comes from the right. In fact, Democrat Congressman Seth Moulton made this point on CNN just yesterday.
By and large, saying we all need to turn down the rhetoric. So let's be serious about where this violence is coming from. Of extremist violent attacks in America, extremist violent murders, 76% are from right-wing extremists, 4% are from left-wing extremists. I condemn that 4%, but we also need to be honest about, as a nation, about where this violence is coming from. And oh, by the way, it's probably an appropriate time to talk about guns, too. You hear a lot of conservatives saying, hey, the only thing we need to do here is get more guns on the street.
No, babe.
That's not going to solve this problem. That's going to make it worse.
So disgusting, just like virtually all of the left-wing media reaction and increasingly congressional reaction to this. Listen to the snark. He says, the vast majority of political violence in the United States is right-wing. 4% of it is left-wing. And I condemn that 4%. And I condemn that 4%. And we need to talk about guns. The murder weapon was a bolt-action antique rifle. What do you mean talk about guns? So we need to ban AR-15s. It was a bolt-action vintage hunting rifle. That would be the last gun in the country that you would ban. Unless you say, we need to repeal the Second Amendment. That's the only thing you could do. The only thing you could do, which still would not work, is overturn the Second Amendment. Because the absolute most basic protected gun in any country that permits any guns at all would be the sort of antique bolt-action rifle that was used in the murder of Charlie Kirk. So is that what you're saying, Seth Moulton? We need to completely get rid of the Second Amendment, completely overturn it, and then go door to door around the country, in a country that has more guns than people, and confiscate every single gun, including antique family heirlooms. Is that what you're saying? Maybe that is what he's saying. He doesn't have the guts to say it. He might not have the intelligence to realize that that is the implication of his random verbal ejaculations. But is he going to let him say it then? Let him say it. And then let's just say that he could convince people that it was a good idea to repeal the 22nd Amendment. Sorry, the Second Amendment. And let's just say that he convinced people that it was a good idea to go door to door and confiscate every single gun in America. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of guns. How are you going to do it, Seth? How are you going to do it? Oh, you don't have any answer. You don't have any answer to any of my questions. But you're going to go and take the opportunity of the murder of an innocent man, apparently by one of your own, and you're going to use that to pontificate about your completely utopian political agenda. Revolting behavior, stupid behavior, powerfully stupid behavior, but also nauseating in its vice. And then we get to his chief claim that he makes. His chief claim that virtually all the political violence is from the right. I looked it up. What did I know? I don't know. I don't read crime statistics all the time. Maybe that was true. So I looked it up. And if you Google it, if you ChatGPT it, it'll say, oh yes, according to this study, according to that study, right-wingers are more likely to commit political violence than left-wingers. If you look at the incidence of political violence, more of them are from the right than the left. I said, that just doesn't sound accurate to me. Just doesn't sound accurate. I myself have been targeted with political violence over the years. And then I said, wait a second. Let me look that up. My town here, Nashville, there's been political violence. What was the most recent example? It was when a trans-identifying shooter gunned down little children in a Catholic school. A trans shooter, trans-identifying, goes into the symbol of traditional conservative culture, of an objective moral order, of the right. Don't forget the right, even the right and the left. The terms come from the left side of the National Assembly in the French Revolution, which was the atheists and the secularists, the right side coming from the Christians and the defenders of the regime. Goes in, fires multiple shots through a picture of Adam and Eve stained glass, before gunning down these innocent kids in a church. Because of, if you read the manifesto, or any part of the manifesto, largely because of this gender ideology, which is a left-wing ideology. And I looked it up. Do you know that's not political violence? Come again? I looked it up. No. The police concluded this was not ideologically motivated. So the trans shooter gunning down little Catholic kids, little Protestant kids. It was a Presbyterian school, I think. Because of that, they say, no. It was, the person was seeking attention. It wasn't ideological. There's a manifesto. What do you mean it's not ideological? No, it doesn't count. Then I said, what about in my own experience? I was at University of Pittsburgh 2 years ago, and I was doing a talk. It was a debate over transgenderism, and 2 Antifa agents showed up, and they burned me in effigy on the street when I got there. And then 2 Antifa agents showed up, threw an explosive at the building right as I was walking on stage. Happily, I was not injured. A police officer was very seriously injured. A female cop was very seriously injured. This couple were hardcore anarchists, Antifa operatives, who would go to Antifa meetings, who were caught going through TSA with explosive material on them multiple times. I looked that up. Do you know that's not left-wing political violence? No, they pled down. They got an obstruction of justice charge, one of them. So it's obstruction of justice, not... Do you know how people like Seth Moulton arrive at the conclusion that there's more right-wing political violence than left-wing political violence? They don't count the left-wing political violence. That's how. That's how they do it. They lie. They hide the left-wing political violence. The first 2 cases I looked up of clear left-wing political violence, trans-motivated political violence, another one regarding the transgender issue from Antifa, the left-wing organization, left-wing terror organization in America, not political violence. So that's how you get to it. We all know, because we have eyes and ears and memories, that left-wing political violence in America is much, much, much more prominent. And there's a double scandal here, because not only will the authorities not do anything about it, they won't even admit that it exists. They'll hide it. President Trump, of course, addressed the role of violence here. He said this at the White House yesterday about the importance of nonviolence.
How do you want to see your supporters respond to this? Charlie Kirk was a big advocate of nonviolence and free speech on campus. How do you want your supporters to respond to it?
I think that way. He was an advocate of nonviolence. That's the way I'd like to see people respond.
Yes, absolutely. Totally agree. Totally agree. But if one side is violent and you don't want the other side to become violent, then the state needs to enforce the law and to maintain order with the credible threat of just violence. This is the part that I think people are missing. We want to get back to the society where we can exchange ideas freely. We want to get back to the society where we can have the faith that we're not going to be murdered just for articulating our views. We want to get back to a society where we don't resort to political violence, of course. You don't get there by just wishing upon a star. Certainly, we pray to the true God. Prayer is the first resort, not the last resort. Certainly, we do that. We also have a civil authority that has to do something. And what they have to do is not ban 80-year-old hunting rifles that are impossible to ban in the first place. The way that we do that is not by cheering on or excusing the murder of an innocent man for stating his opinion. The way that we do that, the way that you go from a society in which one side, most prominently, is murdering the other side which wants to be nonviolent. The way that you get back to that is you need to have a just kind of violence, not vigilante violence, not private violence. Nobody wants that on the right. On the left, I guess they do. But in order to do that, you must have the state come in for the common good to defend the traditional and normal standards, to keep the guardrails of the society in place, to rigorously prosecute certain kinds of speech like threats, like fraud, like libel, like all of the kind of speech that's speech, quote unquote, that's never been protected in America, like fighting words, all these sorts of things. That's the only way you get to it, because you don't have liberty without order. It's not possible. And Governor Cox in that press conference said, it feels like the late 1960s when society spiraled out of control. That's right. We need order. There will be some kind of order. Will it be the good, just order that distinguishes between right and wrong and chooses the right, that distinguishes between true and false and chooses the true? Will it be that kind of order? Or will it be whatever we've got now? That's the choice for us. And that's the obligation, I think, for people in authority to do what we know is right, to have the prudence and the justice and the clarity to appropriately and forcefully insist upon what is right.